Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a world of justice where the law, well, it wasn't really the point. We're talking ancient Athens, where winning a case was all about character assassination, emotional manipulation, and just the raw power of a great speech. All right, so just picture this. You're a big deal, a public official, right? You're overseeing this really important sacred festival. Then, out of nowhere, your super rich, arrogant rival walks right up and punches you. In the face, in front of everybody. So, of course, you drag him to court. But when you get there, it's like a different planet. There's no judge. The jury is massive. We're talking hundreds of people. And get this, you have to argue the whole case yourself.
And believe it or not, this isn't some made-up scenario. This actually happened. We're going back to 348 BC Athens, to a real-life beef between the famous orator Demosthenes and his very wealthy rival, a guy named Meges. Yeah, this punch, it wasn't just some random street fight. Nope. This was the climax, the boiling point of a feud that had been going on for more than a decade. Years before this, Meges had actually broken into Demosthenes' house, trying to take it over, harassing his wife and kids. So that punch at the festival, oh, that was personal. It was a very public, very calculated act of humiliation.
Now, Demosthenes was smart. He knew he couldn't just go to court and say, ouch, my face hurts. He needed a bigger angle. And his whole case hinged on this one incredible concept, hubris. Now, for us, hubris just means excessive pride, right? But in Athens, oh, it was so much more. It was an actual crime. It meant an act of arrogance so extreme, so outrageous that it was seen as an insult not just to the victim, but to the entire community, the laws, even the gods.
And if you want to know just how central this idea was to his whole strategy, get a load of this number, 131. 131, that's how many times Demosthenes hammered the word hubris in his speech. See what he's doing? He's not just a guy who got punched. He's framing Meges as an enemy of the state, a threat to all of Athens.
Okay, so how did a legal system like this even function? I mean, getting justice wasn't as easy as just calling up a lawyer, because, well, in ancient Athens, you couldn't.
When Demosthenes walked into the courtroom, the dikasterion, they called it, he was completely on his own. The law in Athens was crystal clear. Every single citizen had to speak for themselves. There was no one to stand up and argue for you. It was all on you.
And the whole setup, I mean, it would be unrecognizable to us today. Forget a professional judge sitting there interpreting the law. There wasn't one. Instead, you had this enormous jury, sometimes hundreds, even thousands of regular citizens, and they decided everything. The trial itself, it wasn't about the rules of evidence. It was an agon, basically a rhetorical duel.
So that begs the question, right? What if you had to go to court, but you weren't a superstar speaker like Demosthenes? What were you supposed to do? Well, you'd hire a logographer. And these guys, they were the closest thing Athens had to a lawyer, but with a huge catch. They had to operate completely in the shadows.
Think of a logographer as your secret weapon. Their job was to ghostwrite an absolutely killer speech for you, coach you on how to deliver it with real fire and passion, and teach you all the little rhetorical tricks of the trade to win over that giant jury. But here's the thing. It wasn't some prestigious profession. It was seen as just a trade, and the logographer's name was never mentioned. They were always invisible, hidden behind their client.
And all of this brings us right to the heart of an Athenian trial, the agon. This was a high-stakes rhetorical battle, where the winner wasn't the person with the best facts, it was the person with the best story. The philosopher Plato, of all people, just nailed this idea. In his version of Socrates' trial, he has Socrates say this about the guys accusing him. I mean, think about that. It just shows you the insane power of rhetoric in these courts. It was all about making the audience believe you, whether or not what you were saying was actually true. Persuasion was everything. So what exactly went into one of these speeches? Well, if you look at the breakdown, it's kind of wild. A typical speech was almost entirely focused on two things: tearing down your opponent's character and playing on the jury's emotions. We're talking like 85% of your time was spent just convincing the jury that the other guy was a horrible human being. The actual legal arguments, a tiny, tiny slice of the pie. And why was that? Well, it's because the jurors didn't just see their job as deciding guilt or innocence on one specific charge. They believed they were judging your entire character, your whole life. The thinking went something like this. Hey, if I can prove this guy is greedy, or that he skipped out on his military duties, or that he's disrespectful to his own parents, well, then it's a lot easier to believe he's guilty of this crime too. Your whole life was fair game. Okay, but you're probably thinking, what about the facts? What about evidence, witnesses? Surely that stuff had to matter, right? And the answer is, yeah, kind of. But you guessed it, their role was also completely different from what we're used to.
You know, it's funny. Scholars still argue about what a witness was really for. Were they there to confirm specific facts, the just the facts ma'am approach we see in modern courts? Or was it more of a character reference, a way to show the jury, hey, look at all these important, respectable people who are willing to stand up for me? The real answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
But let's just think about that for a second. Put yourself in their shoes. In a system where who you are and who you know is everything, who do you find more believable? Your close, loyal friend who's obviously got your back, or a total stranger, an impartial bystander who just happened to be there?
And this leads to a really cool, kind of counterintuitive strategy. Some of the best orators would actually argue that the most trustworthy witness was a random bystander. And their logic was brilliant. Why? Because a total stranger has no skin in the game. They have no reason to lie for you or against you. Their impartiality was their superpower.
All right, so let's recap. We've got this nasty decade-long feud, we've got a legal system that's basically a public speaking competition, and we've got a case built entirely around this powerful idea of hubris. So what was the verdict? What happened in the big showdown between Demosthenes and Medius?
Well, here's the anticlimax of the century. After all that buildup, the case never even went to trial. Turns out Demosthenes took a payout for Medius and just dropped the whole thing. That means his incredible, fiery speech against Medius was almost certainly never even delivered in a courtroom.
But here's the thing. The real legacy of this whole affair wasn't the verdict, or lack of one. It was the speech itself. Demosthenes probably published it as a kind of pamphlet, and for the next 2,000 years, it's been studied as an absolute masterclass in the art of persuasion. It's become this incredible window for us, giving us a raw, unfiltered look into the legal strategies, the social norms, and just the pure emotion of an Athenian court.
And that kind of leaves us with one big final thought, doesn't it? The Athenian courtroom was a battleground where character, emotion, and story were the weapons of choice. It was a place where the best storyteller won, not necessarily the person with the facts on their side. So when you look around at our world today, at politics, at the media, at arguments online, where it feels like persuasion and a good narrative often trump cold, hard proof, you really have to wonder, how much has actually changed?